Greetings hunters. I think we all know focus is good for weapons that need to charge, but have you ever wondered how good? The description says 5% at focus 1, 10% at focus 2 and so on, but that leaves the question, how much faster do you actually charge in a value of time rather than a value of percent? How much faster does that allow you to attack? And ultimately how much more damage does focus allow you to do? Today we're going to take a deep dive into focus from a bow user's perspective and try to answer these questions. All of your other damage buffs and more specifically, total possible damage ultimately depends on how many times you can attack in the 75-second window you hunt. My name is Johnny Tapas and I have to warn you. A lot of nerd and math stuff ahead. Let's begin. First we need to establish a baseline. How much of the gameplay is actually charging time versus animation? We'll start by assuming, if we can see the reticle we'll label this charging time and we'll assume everything else is an animation and not affected by focus. But we can't just assume. We test. We're going to work at 1/8 speed. We're going to start with 0 focus. We're going to figure out what is actual charging time. In this first clip, we're looking at the time I touch the screen, until we see the reticle. It was 3000 milliseconds, or 375 milliseconds in actual time. Now we're looking at the time it takes to go from charge 1 to charge 2. The clip ends on the very first frame that we see our hunter flash. This took 8400 milliseconds, or 1050 milliseconds in real time. The next thing we're going to look at is the actual flash animation. I kept this separate because I don't see the charging reticle during this time. A quick 40 milliseconds, or 5 milliseconds of actual time. Next we're looking at the charge time from charge 2 to charge 3. Again, this clip ends on the first frame of the flash. 9400 milliseconds or 1175 milliseconds in real time, longer than the first. That's odd. And now for the second flash animation. Again we can't see the reticle, 60 milliseconds this time, again a bit longer than the first. We're starting to see some inconsistencies here, but ultimately that's why we're testing. In the final clip we're looking at charge 3 to charge 4. This clip ends on the first frame of the flash, which is also the point that you can release your shot. You're no longer charging and no longer under the effect of focus. After this last 8600 milliseconds, we ended up with a total time of 29,500 milliseconds from screen touch to release. There's a bonus clip here. Bow users don't just charge and shoot. We add an extra tap to double our charged shot, but with lesser damage. Although this doesn't fall under the effect of focus, we do need to document this animation time as it is part of every bow user's damage rotation. It'll be important later to the bigger picture. This clip shows the time from the moment you release until the moment you begin charging again. Let's now compare focus 0 to focus 4. Error. Error. Error 6-4. After many hours of testing and retiming, we got a lot of variance in the results. But here's what we discovered. When you touch the screen, there is a ping delay. This varies based on your connection to and distance from the server. Flashing animations are part of the charging time. Focus is in effect from the frame your character moves until the first flash frame of charge 4. This is consistent. Knowing this, let's now test focus 0 versus focus 2, a 10% bonus, and focus 4, a 20% bonus. I should apologize for making you suffer through the last few minutes of this video, just to find out that separating every animation was not necessary. However, I wanted you to be sure that I took things like animations and lag and ping into consideration. there are many variables outside of our control. I wanted to cover everything. Looks like I recorded 27,900 milliseconds. Very close to the round number of 28,000. Now on to focus 2. It's to note we can expect some minor variance. The game runs at 60 FPS and the recording is slowed to 1/8 speed, not 160. Therefore my frame by frame is not frame perfect. We came up with 25,100 this time, which we can round to 25,000. Exactly 10% faster than 28,000. I think we found our baseline. We'll use Focus 4 to verify. Focus 4 should be 20% faster than our 28,000 baseline. If you stayed with me this long, now is a good time for a shameless like and subscribe plug before we get into the meat and potatoes of how this information is useful. And this 22,500 milliseconds clip verifies our findings. It's exactly 20% faster than our baseline, so what can we do with this information? Well, we learned that a full charge cycle is 3,500 milliseconds in real time. We also know we have a 75-second time limit for each battle. Also remember that bonus clip that's part of the bow user's damage rotation. That clip was 15,500 milliseconds or 1937.5 milliseconds in real time. Being there is a tap to attack and then a tap and hold to charge. We have to recognize that we're affected by ping. Therefore this animation sequence will never be 100% exact. Let's round to 1950 for simplicity. But what we did get is a single number. 3,500 plus 1950. This number represents the time it takes for the optimal bow user's damage cycle. 5,450 milliseconds. If a battle is 75,000 milliseconds long, we know we can complete the cycle no more than 13 times at focus level 0. That's with perfect play, no rolling around, no getting hit and very little room for human error. Now for focus 1 to 5. Focus 1 increases your charge speed by 5%. This makes your charge time 3,325 milliseconds, plus the 1950 for combo animations for a total of 5,275 milliseconds per cycle. This technically allows for a 14th cycle in the 75-second battle. But there's even less room for things like ping and human error. However, this is an overall 7.69% potential damage increase from Focus 0. Focus 2 does not allow for a 15th cycle. All it does is increases the room for human error by about 3.5 seconds. Focus 3 does allow for a 15th cycle, but again the room for human error becomes very small again. This is a 15.4% potential damage increase from Focus 0. Focus 4 continues the pattern. There's no 16th cycle possible. But there's an extra couple seconds for ping and human error. And finally with Focus 5 there is time to get in a full 17 cycles. But it's not likely possible for a human, especially with ping or any kind of lag. That's a huge potential 30.7% damage increase. And even if you only manage 16 cycles, it's still a very healthy 23.1% damage increase. To close this video, I must say this rabbit hole goes much deeper. The numbers we just discussed are perfect play numbers. They don't include much room at all for human error, and much less for ping or lag. No room for rolling, no room for monsters roaring, or even much for less than accurate charge dodges. Truth is, the worse you play, or the more shit happens, the more focus might be doing for you. Why? Because math. We didn't get into things like the Black Diablos or Pink Rathian bow, which don't need full charges to be optimal. We didn't talk about the point where the extra animations for the tap combo at half damage may no longer be worth the time. But all of that comes in a later video. For now, I'm happy knowing that a full charge is exactly 3500 milliseconds or 1667 milliseconds per charge. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for watching.